Hi y'all, Barrett, Laurie here, and I am the host of Let's Talk About Butt Stuff, a playlist on my channel dedicated to folks working their way through chronic illness, and more specifically, my journey with Crohn's disease. However, before we get into that topic of the day, we're gonna take care of that channel maintenance. If you're new here, consider clicking that subscribe button and dinging the bell. The bell gives you notifications every time I upload new content to the channel, which is 2 times per week. Also, if you enjoy the content, you are going to need to click that like button and or leave me a comment below. I will engage with anyone and everyone in that comment section unless you are a porn scammer or a marketing spammer. Y'all get ignored. Everybody else, look forward to talking to you below. If you're not already, consider heading over to the socials. You'll find me at Barrett_Laurie at Twitter and Instagram, and engage with me there, and I will be sure and keep an eye out for you over on the socials. So let's get into that topic of the day. So the topic today is liver disease and Crohn's disease. So before I get into the meat and potatoes of the topic, I am going to give a little context for what has brought me to this point. So by the time this video is put up tomorrow, I should be having a biopsy of my liver. That is because last Tuesday, I had my very first Fibroscan, which is basically an ultrasound of your liver. And in that Fibroscan, they found that I had scar tissue on my liver. The reason that is significant is that is the beginning stages of liver disease. And liver disease can be a real serious thing. So they wanted to move quickly to get me in to have a whole barrage of tests done to track what's going on with my liver. So yesterday, Monday, which was November 30th, I had an MRI and a CT scan, which will be used along with the biopsy samples and some blood work that was pulled on me on November 19th at my last Remicade appointment to determine what's going on with my liver. So pause. How did we get here, you say? Well, back in January, when I first went to see the colorectal surgeon and they had me do a colonoscopy, they also had me do an MRI. At that MRI, they found that my liver was healthy, and there was nothing at that time that indicated that I had any problems with my liver. What was going on with me at the time was my intestines were inflamed and I had the fistula that had formed and was draining, and I needed to have the drain, the ceton, put in. So flash forward to February, I now have 2 fistulas, 2 drains in, and they say, uh-oh, this could be Crohn's disease, which had not been diagnosed up to that point. But my GI doctor that I was referred to by my colorectal surgeon said 2 fistulas and still all the pain that you're having means that you could develop a third. We need to do another MRI and do some blood work and just check and see. I think you might have what's called perianal Crohn's disease. Well, I have the MRI in March, and in March, I not only have perianal Crohn's disease, I was officially diagnosed March 5th, but they also found that my liver had mild steatohepititis. So what does that mean? It's basically a form of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. At this time, in March, he's saying, you know, your body's been in flare for, at that point, 6 months or so. Your liver is probably just overworked right now, and that's what's causing the buildup of fat in your liver. And at that point, I was 20 pounds lighter. So he was saying, you got a little weight to lose. It could also just be, you know, your weight that's causing some of this on top of the flare that your body is in, which is causing inflammation in the liver. He says, we're just going to keep an eye on it and see what happens. So far, none of your blood work is pointing us in the direction of liver disease at this point. There are some close calls on those scales, but you're not in the danger zone on any of them. But just to be safe, I'm going to pull labs every other time you go in for Remicade. So that would mean I was having labs drawn about every 2 months at that point. Flash forward to July. In July, my blood work had started to show liver disease. I was showing signs of it in my blood work, whatever they were seeing in my lab work was telling them that my liver was having some problems. So at my July MRI, a man came to see me named Dr. Nix, who was heading up a study that is a database where they collect stool samples, tissue samples, and blood work of people with inflammation, IBD, but more specifically Crohn's disease, to hang on to that data for other studies that they may be conducting. I was also asked at that time if I wanted to participate in a study that studied liver disease, because they were seeing that I had not only inflammation of the liver, but was starting to move into what's called fibrosis, which is a stage of liver disease where there is some scar tissue that builds up as a result of ongoing inflammation. At that MRI, I had gone from having mild steatohepatitis hepatitis to having moderate steatohepatitis hepatitis. That's a pretty quick jump in 3 months. So at this point, I get a call from a specialist, Dr. McHenry, who works with liver disease. At that time, he said, I am going to pull some blood work from you every time you go in to have your Remicade infusion, which for me is every 6 weeks, so pretty often, and run a bunch of labs to keep an eye on your liver, because you're increasingly having more and more signs of liver disease, and it's rapidly getting worse. We need to try and control this, because there is a point of no return in liver disease where it goes too far and your liver can no longer heal itself, and you will in fact need a transplant, and you're pretty young for that. That was kind of like discussed back in the day, back in July, and I was kind of like, okay, cool. Hadn't really heard from him. Flash forward to my appointment last Tuesday, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, so the 25th of November, I think. And I go in for my regular GI appointment. It goes really well. They tell me that my inflammation is much better. They are going to increase my Remicade dosage because it seems to be working, but with both of my drains out, the draining of my fistulas was almost non-existent. And by May, at my May appointment, they hope to put me in remission status, which is super exciting. Then they send me down the hall to have what's called a Fibroscan, which is essentially an ultrasound of my liver. So I sit down in the chair, they do the Fibroscan, and then I get a call from the doctor afterwards telling me that my Fibroscan didn't look so hot. And basically, he was pretty concerned about some scarring that he was seeing, that the Fibroscan wasn't 100% conclusive, and so he couldn't diagnose anything from that alone, and instead wanted to have some additional testing done to determine how far down the liver disease path I might be. However, he did tell me at that time, you officially have liver disease. Like, this is the thing, and we're going to need to get it under control. And that's definitely going to look like diet and exercise, 2 words that I hate. You know, you have liver disease, and I'm not sure where we're at on the level of it yet. And then also he mentioned that there was a mass on my liver that he saw that had him concerned. Yay, go me. So now I'm panicked and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So he says, calm down, let me go through some things with you. Have you had any of these symptoms? And he starts listing them off. And I didn't have all of them, but I had quite a few of them. I had rashes that were with really itchy skin that were unexplained and not being calmed with Benadryl. I had weight gain in my midsection and especially my legs. That is another sign of your liver not processing properly. I also had times of like stabbing pain in my liver that was usually associated with different things that I might eat that also impacted my Crohn's. So, you know, if I'd slip and have dairy or something, I would feel that in my liver. And I have not had alcohol in, at this point, almost 3.5 years, I think. So in no way was this associated with alcohol or any kind of substance abuse in my body, right? He says to me, he's like, I really, you know, I want to get you in for some tests ASAP. Next week, we're going to do an MRI and a CAT scan, which I did yesterday on Monday, the 30th of November. And on the 2nd, you're going to be in for a procedure anyway, a small outpatient surgical procedure. I want to send you up to another floor at that hospital and have a biopsy of your liver done at that time to determine, so I can really determine where we're at in this liver disease process. And so I said, well, what about the mass? Like, is that a tumor? He did not know, and said, we won't know until we look at the biopsy for sure, the MRI, the blood work, kind of do it all together and bring in a bunch of different people from here at the hospital that will look over your tests and come up with a conclusion as to where you're at. But, you know, he said, if it is cancer, it's likely cancer that is of the liver. Primary liver cancer is what he called it. And he said that's fairly common for people with liver disease. When you get to stage 4 of liver disease, your liver is so damaged that it starts growing stuff, tumors essentially. And the MRI that they were doing would ensure that that wasn't spreading to anywhere else in my body, because if they were to cut that tumor out, it would be likely that I could lose the whole liver. And if that happens, I'd be looking at dialysis until I could get a match for a transplant. And at my age, that could look daunting, like many, many years waiting for that to come through. So that's not ideal. Anyway, so I had a panic attack, cried, went to Deerberg to pick up the food for Thanksgiving. They were putting it in the back of my car. I'm like crying. The lady asked me what's wrong, and I, tried to blame it like on, oh, it's the broccoli salad or something. So went through all my emotions, all my feels, and wanted to do this video to kind of warn people out there with Crohn's disease. I am lucky to be at Barnes and with WashU physicians it's a research hospital. It's one of the best research hospitals in the country, and they are really on top of my care and have a great system of working together to solve problems like this that might come up. What shocked me was the doctor sent me some articles to read over. Cleveland Clinic found in a study in 2019 that folks with Crohn's disease are 3 times more likely to have liver disease or contract liver disease at some point in their life. This is new information. There are studies happening all the time, including the one I'm participating in at Washington University, to try and understand why this is happening. Now, both are inflammation diseases, or they start as inflammation diseases that cause scarring over time in both cases. So I don't think it's a huge jump to see the link between the two, but it's just, there's not enough known. So the point of this video for anyone out there watching who happens to have Crohn's disease, talk to your GI specialist. If you're going in to get Remicade or Entyvio or any of these infusions and they're hooking you up anyway, go ahead and see if your GI is comfortable doing a full blood draw either every time you go or every other time you go, to just check your lab work to make sure that you don't start having some indicators of liver disease. For me, those indicators first popped up in my blood work. See if your GI doctor can talk to you about liver disease and whether or not they think it's something they should be concerned about with you. Ask them if they'd be willing to do some extra blood work just for your own peace of mind, to see if anything pops up in those panels that might indicate liver disease. Also, when you're having your MRIs, there's a whole section for me when I get my abdominal MRIs done that's on the liver. So be sure and check that and talk to your doctor about if you start seeing stuff like mild steatic hepatitis in your liver, start talking to him about it, because that's the beginnings of liver disease and you want to nip that in the bud. There are basically 4 stages of liver disease. There's a healthy liver, there's fibrosis of the liver, which at fibrosis stage, you can still change your lifestyle enough, do some meds, do some things to allow the liver to heal itself. When you get to stage 3, which is cirrhosis of the liver, there's no return from that. You're at a point now where you're on borrowed time until you're going to end up with liver cancer and liver failure. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that order, don't necessarily have to get cancer to have liver failure, but usually that happens in that order. So you definitely want to catch it sooner rather than later. So the first time you see something like mild steatic hepatitis, ding, 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 talk to your doctor. Same thing on your blood work. Try to talk to them about what should I be looking for in these blood panel results that I'm getting back that might indicate liver disease, and are you watching for that? I just want to make sure that you're not caught off guard so you don't find yourself crying in a Deerberg's at Thanksgiving, trying to figure out how you got here. So anyway, so biopsy tomorrow. I will keep all of you posted on what happens, obviously, and we'll take you along on the journey, whatever it's going to be. What I know for sure is that I have amazing support. I have an amazing support system around me of people who love me and care about me and will be there for me no matter what this next stage in this journey is going to be. And I want to make sure that you have that as well. Check yourself early, talk to your doctor, keep a handle on it, and make sure that liver disease doesn't sneak up on you, especially if you suffer from Crohn's disease, but also any IBD, because all of them are inflammatory. The liver is part of the digestive system, and inflammation is a bitch, y'all. Okay? I love you all. Appreciate you for being here. Again, if you're new, consider clicking that subscribe button and dinging the bell. Also, if you liked the content or it helped you out in any way, click that like button or comment below. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. And if you're not already, head over to the socials. You'll find me at Barrett_Laurie at Twitter and Instagram. Engage with me there, and I look forward to chatting with you. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you soon.